Hey class, it's Mr. Andrews. Sorry I couldn't be here with you today, but I wanted to go over some instruction in terms of what the next steps are. So now that we finished A Few Good Men and we've seen how the movie shaked out, we're now going to turn our sights towards our second major paper for the class. And it's worth noting that this is a progressive course where every paper builds off the skills of the previous paper. And on top of that, the grading and the point values are really reflective of that. This paper, the comparative analysis, the sub is about to hand the instructions out to you. And this paper is worth 250 points. And if you're keeping score, that's the entire amount of point value that both microthemes 1, 2, and your first paper all had combined together. And the reason partially for this kind of weighting, this kind of intense weighting on this next paper is because this next paper represents all of those skills put together that we've done in those previous papers. Now, what are we going to be doing with the comparative analysis? Well, it starts today because right after watching this quick introduction, you are going to start watching the movie Mean Girls. Now, what are we doing with Mean Girls? Well, for this paper, you're going to actually be analyzing a test object. Now, a test object in this case is going to be a piece of material, a visual text, the movie Mean Girls. What are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to start today and tomorrow on your virtual day by creating a double journal wherein you're going to try to identify different patterns and details of significance in the movie Mean Girls. Specifically, I would look for patterns and details that pertain to obedience, to authority, and to power. And there are obvious ones in the film, like the Queen Bee Regina. If you've seen the movie, you know that she is a powerful individual. But there are other power relationships in the movie as well, other areas where obedience takes place. And unlike in the Few Good Men microtheme 3, you're actually going to have the choice to choose where you want to focus your question on in this film. You could choose, for instance, to focus on any particular scene, on a particular event, on a particular pattern, or on a particular character or relationship. There are a number of questions you could ask about this film about characters major and minor. And so it's really up to you to determine what focus you want. You get a little more control and latitude in this movie than in previous papers, where you're going to develop from the ground up your own central question that you're going to be answering. Now, you want to be careful to not ask a question that has an obvious answer. And so the more difficult or perplexing the question, the better. The question then becomes for you, though, is how are we going to answer this question? If I, for instance, end up developing a question about the movie and it's very focused and it even asks about a particular scene, right? That might be a good basis for a paper, but what next, Mr. Andrews? How are we going to make this academic? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put that scene, or that question rather, in the conversation with other academic sources. We're going to, in other words, take two other sources, one of which is going to be the one by Eric Fromm. So Fromm's coming back for this paper too, but also an article called The Power of Situations by Ross and Nisbet. And we're going to talk about that article next time we meet in person. But for this particular paper, those two articles are going to be our lenses for interpreting and thinking about the question about Mean Girls. You're going to be putting these sources into conversation with each other as you consider and grapple with the question itself about Mean Girls. You're going to consider how would each author address the question? In what part could maybe one author contribute to an answer? And you're going to work to take both of their ideas and create a better, more objective answer to the question. So in many ways, this is like microtheme 3, except it's going to be much more developed, much more detailed, and you're going to be having a conversation between multiple sources to help answer that question. So for today, after you watch this video, the substitute is going to put on Mean Girls, the film, and starting from the very beginning, you're going to create a double journal. Now, this double journal is due by midnight tomorrow night on your virtual day. And what you're going to do is you're going to start by first on the left side of this double journal, looking at the patterns, looking at repetitions, at binaries, at anomalies, things that just break the patterns altogether. And specifically look for those patterns that pertain to obedience, power, and authority. And then on the right side of your double journal, you're eventually, once the movie is over, you're going to develop your own questions that you think these details or patterns raise. And these should be questions that don't have an obvious or easy answer. You want to, the more specific the question, the better. And so today, by the end of class, you likely will be able to get about a half hour into the movie. So tomorrow on your virtual day, you're going to be expected to finish the movie on your own. Now, you may be saying, Mr. Andrews, how do I access the movie? Well, that's actually fairly simple. If you go to tomorrow's agenda, you will see that there will be a link provided to you that goes through IU Libraries. If you sign into that link using the login information from when you registered for class or the login information that IU gave you to register for class if you wanted it, once you log in, you will see that there will be a video library that you'll have access to in that link, and you'll be able then to search for Mean Girls and find it for free to stream. It's kind of cool because it's like a library-based Netflix kind of platform. So through there, you will be able to finish the film for free on your own, and that will be your assignment for Tuesday. So that said, that is your video introduction for the comparative analysis. I do ask that you look over the instruction sheet, which the sub is giving over to you. Make sure that you're looking over this today so that you at least have a strong sense of what the assignment is about. But that said, now's the time for you to get started with Mean Girls, and do make sure that you're paying close attention to the details. Maybe you've seen the movie before, but it still will be very helpful for you then to take good notes on the things that aren't so obvious in your memory, the things that maybe didn't quickly or readily come to mind when you thought about Mean Girls. And if this is your first time, good news, you also get to enjoy the movie, but you still want to make sure that you're taking good notes, that you're looking for those areas where you see power taking place or taking a role in the film, where you see authority figures and where you see obedience, even the kind of obedience that violates personal values and ethics. So with that said, it's time to watch Mean Girls, and I'll leave you be. I'll see you soon, class.